the channel. My name is Niladri Mukherjee and I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I practice in Mississauga, Ontario. So let's talk about startup visa one more time, and this time I'm going to talk about the attributes of a successful startup visa client. Now you all know that government of Canada tells you about all the immigration programs, including this one. There are certain pre-requirements that you have to fulfill in order for you to be qualified into any immigration program, right? And the same is true for startup visa as well. For example, in this very specific case, you have to have a qualified business. You have to then get a support from a designated incubator or a venture capital fund, meaning that you have to get a letter of support from either of the authorized entities. You have to have enough money and you have to have a certain language score, which is CLB5. Now, these are the requirements that are typically on paper. Today, I'm going to highlight from my personal experience that what I think are the successful attributes, or based on my experience, what are those attributes that have made my clients successful so far. The first and foremost, let's just talk about the age factor. Important for you to understand is that startup visa is not a point driven system. So regardless of your age, if it is 35 or 45 or 55 or theoretically 60, you can still qualify to be a successful entrepreneur and hence can come to Canada as a potential startup visa investor program under the startup visa investor program, right? But that's on paper. Practically speaking, based on my experience and observation of last many months and years, is that if you are in the age bracket of 35 to 40, the proportion of success generally goes higher, much higher as compared to if you are maybe 50 plus or less than 30. Now, there is no scientific reason behind it. It could also be the fact that this is the age bracket that most number of potential clients come from. But it is also important for you to understand is that you have to face interviews with the incubator. You have to face interviews with the venture capital funds or angel investors. So if you are like very young, your experience may not be that high. I do understand that experience and confidence and age are not always correlated, but for the most part it does, right? So if you have done substantial kind of work in your life, if you are well experienced, that really shows. So from that experience, I could tell you is that 35 to 40 is the perfect age bracket from which at least I see most number of successful clients come from. That's on the age part of thing. Secondly is the financial commitment or the financial capability, if you will. Now, theoretically speaking, you may not have any money and still can potentially become qualified under the startup visa program. Any money in the sense if you do not have any money for investment, but still you have to have enough money for settlement anyways. But let's just say, theoretically speaking, is that you do not have at least $100,000 or 120,000 Canadian dollars. In that case, should you still qualify or should you still practically be able to eligible under the startup visa program? 90% of the times the answer is no. Why? Because venture capital funds and angel investors, they are not really the ones that are supporting a lot of potential clients these days. The ones that are supporting are the incubators. And if you want the support from an incubator, if you want them to support you, along with meeting all the criteria, and mind you, those criteria are tough to be met, you have to pay a hefty incubation fee as well in the range of 35 to 45,000 Canadian dollars and anything in between. So even if no matter how successful you are in your life or how much value you think your idea will be, like valuable your idea will be, if you do not have this much amount of money at least, plus the settlement fund, you will probably not be able to get a support from an incubator. And in that case, probably the whole program is not getting started anyway. So financial capability wise, from my experience, what I say is that 100,000 to 150,000 readily available money. I'm not saying that you have to have those amount of money sitting in the bank account or have those kind of hard cash, but it has to be available in liquid form. You obviously do not have to pay everything upfront, but you have to shell out a similar kind of money over a period of time. So you should have some sources. You should be able to prove that you have sources to bring in those money, right? So somebody, from my experience again, that have about $150,000 kind of funds readily available have the higher potential, or I have seen become the higher potential to be successful, startup visa client. That's on the financial part of thing. And mind you, This part also inclusive of the settlement fund that you are about to bring into Canada. So if you are a family of three, as on today, as on the day of recording the video, you have to bring 20,763, or on an approximate scale, 21,000 Canadian dollars for a family of three. So that's something that you have to show anyways, right? So $150,000 is something that you're expected to have should you want to venture into this program. At least the successful ones did have it. That's on the financial side of things. Thirdly, let's talk about the language ability. Now, the government of Canada is telling you that you have to have a CLB 5 at least. It could be IELTS or it could be in self-pay. But realistically speaking, if you are not able to speak English properly or French properly, you will not be picked up by a business incubator. You will have to face multiple interviews, multiple intake interviews with the designated incubator, or if you're working with a venture capital fund or an angel investor, you have to face interviews. You have to present your business ideas, have to present your business speech and everything, and RCIC can definitely help you preparing those. I do help my clients to prepare everything, but at the same time, it is also important for you to understand is that it is your business and you are expecting to receive Canadian permanent residency under a business investor or skilled immigration category, which means that though the government is telling you to have at least CLB 5, realistically speaking, having CLB 7 or CLB 8 is helpful. CLB 9 is brilliant. At the least, you should be able to communicate your ideas properly in terms of speaking, at least, because the writing part can still be taken care of by your designated representative. But speaking is something that you have to speak with the incubators or with the venture capital fund. So your speaking capability, your communication ability has to be at a decent level. So again, coming back to the theory versus the practical angle of it, though government is telling you to have at least CLB 5, from my experience I have seen is that CLB 7, at least that really works. Right now, this does not really mean that if you score, for example, 5 in all the other modules and 8 in speaking, you will be disqualified. No, but this is just from my experience that you have to have a decent communication ability. At least verbal communication ability does help. Most important ability, which I place in the last one, is your persistence. Very frankly and realistically speaking, getting a work permit, if the application is correct, is not a very time-taking thing. But sometimes client feels that I have received the work permit and now PR is just a cakewalk. It is not. Mind you, if you work with a good incubator, the incubator has to update IRCC from the time your work permit is done till you get your PR as to how your business is progressing. And the responsibility lies on your RCAC as well to keep on updating the IRCC from time to time as to what kind of business progress that you are making. Right? So if you think that you just have created something on paper and then when the time comes for you to come to Canada with the work permit and create something actual, you will not do that. You will not get PR. The incubators are entitled, and they do that a lot, to take away your letter of support. They take away the commitment certificate and all your money just got vested in this case, right? So meaning, mind you, getting a PR is not a guarantee. Nothing is guaranteed, but getting a work permit and then to PR, that work permit to PR is a time taking, is a rigorous, is a process that requires a lot of patience. Sometimes I have seen the clients losing patience because PR these days is taking time, and startup visa PR takes time anyways. So patience is something, persistence is something that I have seen, at least from my experience, all these successful clients have. So I hope this gives you a realistic understanding to make you decide whether this is for you or not. But this is one of the successful program that is running these days. There is no guarantee, nobody can tell you is that how long this program will be running, because there is a phase, is what I have seen. There are some years, some months when a program runs successfully. This is a time, in my opinion, for startup visa. So if you would like to encash in on the opportunity, if you would like me to consult you, feel free to go through the website nuvonation.ca/professional consultation. Then send us an email, contact@nuvonation.ca. Shall be glad to consult. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one, guys. Bye now. Cheers.